So that, life is a bunch of timing, and he was the right guy at the right time, and had the chops really to be part of it and innovative and contribute to early aviation.
If you're looking back over your relationship with them and do a little short summary of how you knew John Myers and what kind of relationship you two had.
He was a great guy to be around, plain and simple. Use the term, he just hung out well. And so you could spend easy time with him. And it was, that's it. He hung out well.
Now he's talked about that crystal yum yum, so that was his drink.
Yeah, he would have an occasional crystal yum yum.
Now he was successful in business and those things too.
Yeah, he was very much interested in ranching and so forth, and I think he had a couple of other operations that kind of grew out at the end of the war that were in aviation, and I not there was like Pacific Air or something like that he was doing, and and he bought and sold some the business and ran operations. I don't know when the ranch really came into the family, whether that was from old Judge Myers handed on down, or whether it was something John. But he always had the Flying M that I was aware of. And
had you been there before?
No, I've never been there. Really, it was strange. I know I had never been up to that. But he was, as I say, he was a successful guy, and he would do what he said to do, and it worked. He worked. It worked well.
The Grove. Can you tell us what's the culture up there? Like he was like that was a big part of what he's.
Yeah, and you don't go into much really with the Bohemian Club and the Grove, but it's a retreat for a lot of guys to just get out and exchange ideas, and really basically it's the arts and entertainment are the thing that drives it. John was part of that. As a matter of fact, when we had people playing on the deck in old days, he would play a gut bucket, which is a wash tub with a string and a broom handle on it, and he could fly a lot better than he could play the gut bucket. But and it's just kind of an exchange of and enjoying really kind of entertainment and camaraderie of a lot of fellows. And it's an old line club from San Francisco, and they have a retreat once a year up off the Russian River, and it's a magical place.
Now, I saw some pictures from the Conquistador, one of their annual things. Him playing harmonica. Did you ever see him play?
That could well have, but I'm not that dialed into that. Primarily, I remember him just on the bass. Yeah.
Now, they say he used to go to the country club a lot to have lunch and things like that. Did you ever see him playing golf or anything?
No, that's kind of in the LA group, and I really wasn't. I knew it was LA Country Club, and was there, but no, I'd never really played golf with him or was up in the LA, other than by his place at Rodeo Drive to pick him up to do I don't know, from time to time to either pick up, leave something off, or so I knew the house there on Rodeo.
What kind of business did you go into?
I went in and had a real estate property management company, which had sold that, and then had a landscape contracting company, and retired now. But we were down here in Orange County with the just when the boom started. We came down in 1965. It had been really in this house since '65.
You have kids or grandkids?
Yeah, have a daughter and a son, and they had gone to other areas to go ahead and get their lives started, and then have migrated back so they're close around, so that we have the grandkids are close by, and we see them regularly.
So people still ask about your dad once in a while.
Yeah, it's you get the generational thing, and they don't really know who Andy Devine is, other than he had to be somebody because he was in a Jimmy Buffett song with his pencil thin mustache song, and you know, you sort of date yourself when you remember Dad because that means that you were going to movies or watching television in the '50s, which then puts you into your mid '50s or early '50s at a minimum.
I always like Stagecoach. It's my favorite. What's your favorite? Or what do you think? Did you have a favorite?
Stagecoach was great. The closest thing to really kind of Dad's personality was actually when he played a cop in a Jack Webb movie called Pete Kelly's Blues, and which it was, he was usually doing comic relief, but that was more of a serious side than Dad. The other one, I thought it was great, which was early on, the original Star is Born with Janet Gaynor and Frederick March. Was kind of a fun deal, and he was in 260 films because in those days you went to work. You were at the studio at 8:30 every morning, and you worked. If you weren't on a picture, this went for all the contract players. You were either in the gym, you were taking singing lessons, you were dancing lessons. That's why all the old Hollywood people all had all these skills because if they're paying you to be there, you better be doing something. And so Dad made up to, I think the high one, because there's a book that comes out, all this stuff, that he did 13 pictures in 1 year. Okay, that's more than one a month. Okay, but usually it was 7, 8, 9 pictures a year. From that whole period into the mid 30s on into the 40s, and then it started to drift off in the late 40s, and then in '49 is when he went to Republic Pictures to do the pictures with Roy Rogers. He played character Cookie Bullfincher was the name.
So he went from silence to the regular movies and then TV.
Yeah, and he made and it was kind of interesting. He went to Roy and said, "Roy, I've been approached to do this thing for a Western for television, and are you thinking about doing television?" And he said, "No." Roy said, "No, I think I'm just going to stick with features." Well, Roy was not one to pass up a business opportunity, and after about 6 months in the thing, he said, "I think maybe television's here to stay." And then he started his own TV series.
One thing about you saw coming through your life was so many characters, it seems like.
Yeah, and by and large, they were good guys. I mean, those that were on the valley side of the hill. I did, I was in quotes part of Hollywood, but I really wasn't because I went grammar school through high school with kind of the same kids, Van Nuys Grammar School and then Van Nuys High School, et cetera, and graduated. And when we have reunions, we'll go back to we call the originals, and it's down to about 8 that were in Miss Van Winkle's kindergarten class that went all the way through high school together. And there were 2 that went from kindergarten all the way through Stanford together. One, Bill Suvaroff, who lives up north. And anyway, we were from kindergarten through high school and through Stanford.
Now, did you ever meet Yakuna Canute?
No, I did not. I know of him, of course. He was, the great stunt guy and kind of an actor as such. That was, that's a whole different group. A lot of them I met but Yak I did not know.
Now, John Wayne?
Duke I knew really well. And
he had a boat not too far from here, right?
The Wild Goose was down here, and that was his boat. And but his son Mike Wayne, actually, my dad and mom Dogie was her nickname, and Duke and Josephine, his wife, were out to dinner together, and both the gals were pregnant, and they went home. Dad got up the next morning, and there was a Union telegraph. There was a telegram saying, "Mine's a boy. What's yours, Duke?" They'd gone home. Josie went into labor, and Mike was born, and I was born 4 days later. And yeah, but we didn't. I didn't really know any of the kids really that grew up in what is kind of classically known as Hollywood, and such. And there were a lot of a lot of the kids that were out in the valley had affiliations with different studios, but they were not necessarily talent as such. It was they were gaffers and greensmen and editors and it was kind of staff guys. So it was not that out of the ordinary to be involved in the picture business, and it was a pretty steady kind of home life because Dad was home every deal, and the big deal was if they were running over on a picture and shooting on Saturdays, then I could go to Universal and watch them shoot, which was always great fun because you'd be there for part of the thing, and then you could just kind of drift through the studio and go into the back lot and their Western Street and the Alabama Street and I mean it was great fantasy,
Very
and
exciting.
yeah, it was fun. And
Now, if you were going to describe John Myers in just a couple words, what words would you choose? You think?
uh, just he was a man, he was a guy, and he was talented and your friend and capable. You know, that was John. He is an icon, but very approachable.
Thank you very much for taking the time.
Well, thank you.
Very good job. Very good.